Small business. Today, we are able to bring to you special guests from NIH, Mr. Keith Johnson, who I will introduce momentarily, that will talk to us about what's next for CIO SP4, which, if you're tracking it, it's a $40 billion unrestricted indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity government-wide acquisition contract, general focus on general information technology, with some emphasis on the IT needs for health-related and bio efforts that NIH is responsible for. And so we'll get into that in a moment. And we are definitely glad to be able to have Mr. Johnson here in collaboration with Ms. Annette Owen Scarborough out of the NIH's Small Business Office. Keith is he is the current contracting officer at NIH's Information Technology and Acquisition Assessment Center, better known as NITAAC, out in the real world. We love those acronyms. And they administer 3 government-wide contracts, of which Keith is directly responsible for 2 of those, CIO SP3 and CIO SP3 Small Business. And they have a combined ceiling of about $40 billion. It can be used by any federal agencies. It is one of the BICs under the category of management, the best-in-class contracting vehicles. And so the federal government and DOD are able to use that in coordination with the NIH contracting folks. And of the 2 contracts, CIO SP3 Small Business is exceptionally valuable because it gives small businesses an opportunity to compete for those federal contracts. Of course, today we're here to talk about, and Keith's he's a graduate of North Carolina Central University and in a government contracting SME. He holds degrees in political science and in public administration, master's in public administration. So without further ado, I will ask Keith, I'll turn it over to him. Just a couple of things. Clearly, we know there are going to be a lot of questions because this is about CIO SP4 and where that's going and how can small businesses have more access to that. Probably some questions he can't answer, but he tells me he will do his best to answer what he can. And we will go from there. So let's enjoy the dialogue, Mr. Keith Johnson.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Tommy, for that introduction. Again, my name is Keith Johnson. I'm the contracting officer for the NITAAC GWAC, CIO SP3, CIO SP3 Small Business, CIOCS is another GWAC, and then also I'm the CO for SP4, which is a recompete of SP3. So it is certainly a pleasure to be here before everyone. Thank you to Miss Annette and her team for setting this up so that we can kind of get the word out concerning the GWAC. So without further ado, we have a PowerPoint presentation. I have some slides here for everyone to view as I go through this presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to follow the instructions from the team. I believe they said to submit your questions via the box or the chat box, and I'll try my best to answer your questions when I finish the discussion. Just as a disclaimer here, since we're so close to the competition of SP4, there are likely going to be some questions that are asked that I can't answer. Because we obviously want to make sure we protect the procurement and maintain procurement integrity. So without any further delay, we can go ahead and get into this presentation. And I see my face, but I don't see the slides. So let me know if I'm doing something wrong here.
Let's see the slides.
Oh, it's the spotlight. Okay, never mind. I got it. I think I understand. All right, so let's go to, so I just introduced myself, so I guess I'm on slide 2 now. So
are you sharing Just a moment, Keith. Are you sharing your
Mhm.
screen? Because the slides are not up.
No, I thought,
Kalala, you got the control of the screen to put the slides back. Who has the slides? They were up there.
Pulling it up now.
Okay, Jacob. There
thank
you
you.
go.
All right, slide two. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. So, so with today, these are the items that we're going to discuss. As I just mentioned, SP4. We'll give you a little overview of the NITAAC program itself, just for those who may not be familiar with what we do and who we are and where we're located. I think that's important. As I talk about the NITAAC overview and then of course SP4, I want you to all keep in mind that even though SP4 is a focus right now because that's the recompete, soon we'll be in a recompete status for CS as well. So any details that are shared concerning CIO CS, Commodities and Solutions, that contract, that GWAC, though that's going to be in a recompete as soon as SP4 is awarded. We'll be in a recompete status for that GWAC as well. So stay tuned for that, and it may provide some opportunity for folks joining us today. We can move to the next slide. So NITAAC at a glance. So NITAAC is an acronym, and there it is, NIH Information Technology Acquisition and Assessment Center, NITAAC. So what we do, so we're a contract shop. We're all govies. I'm a contracting officer, but we're a little bit different from most contracting shops in that our sole mission is to administer our GWACs, our government-wide acquisition contracts. So a GWAC is a contract or really an IDIQ that can be used by any contracting officer or ordering activity in the federal government. Unlike typical IDIQs where, you know, the agency is allowed to use and buy off of that IDIQ, a GWAC is a structure, is a contract that can be used all over the federal government. That's why we have such a high ceiling, because from civilian agencies all the way to DoD agencies, they use our GWAC for their IT needs, goods and or services. So how do we do it? So we like to say that we provide a low cost, high quality IT resolutions or products to our customers. And we really lean on our contract holders to do this for us. And we expect them to provide this low cost, high quality IT solutions, I should say, to our government customers. That's what really keeps us afloat. When contract holders do well, we look good. We all look good. So that's the whole point behind all of this. We can move to the next slide. So as you can see, the current contract, CIO-CS, is the one that will be in a recompete status as soon as SP4 is awarded. Now, CS is a little bit different. It's a commodities and solutions contract. So it's a commodities-based contract. So anything that would range from desktops, laptops, even some cloud solutions would be on this particular GWAC. And I'm not sure if that, you know, checks any boxes for folks on the call on the portal here today. But just the FYI, it's a $20 billion ceiling. Period of the 5-year option, 5-year base. The period of performance is not 15 years; it's actually 10 years. That's a typo. It's a 10-year period of performance. All right, and this is a commodities-based contract, products-based contract, rather than services, which applies to SP3 and SP4. We can move to the next slide. So we see here, you see here with SP3 and SP3 Small Businesses, you see the ceiling there. It's a 10-year ordering period. It's actually a 10-year period of performance. And this particular contract is for services, commercial and non-commercial. All right, so it's a little bit different from the one we just talked about, CS. So it's a 10-year ordering period, and it's a 10-year period of performance. However, if a contracting officer were to place a task order or an order off of this GWAC in year 2022, very last year of the GWAC, on the very last day of the GWAC, they can place an order that is a base year plus 4 optional years, so a 5-year commitment under the contract. And that order will be good even though the ordering period for the GWAC has expired. And technically the period of performance for the GWAC has expired. The order will still continue for 5 years after. That's why there's a bit of a disconnect or some confusion based upon the ordering period versus the 10-year or 10-year period of performance. So it's definitely 10 years, not 15 years. All right, we can move to the next slide. So here we have just a brief overview of some of the totals or the totals for over the years for the GWAC. It was awarded in 2012. So you see we kind of picked up steam as we moved along. 2019 was a very good year for NITAAC. And you can see, so, you know, these are all contract holders, right? Small and large, who have taken part in the success of NITAAC. So there's definitely room to grow for us. And so therefore there's room for you all to be successful as well with SP4. And of course with SP4, we're trying to improve upon the successes that we've had under SP3. So we're hoping that we can increase these numbers as time goes by. All right, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so with SP4, let me just adjust my screen here just a tad bit so I can see. All right, so as I mentioned, we plan to obviously build upon the successes that we've had with SP3 with SP4. We've had some challenges with SP3 over these 10 years. We're in the 8th year now, going into the 9th year. This summer will be the 9th year of the GWAC. And obviously we've learned over the years of how to administer the GWAC better and how to market the GWAC better and how to really engage our contract holder base better, right? So we plan to apply what we've learned with SP4. And the last 2 bullets there are just some examples of what we plan to do in terms of streamlining the administrative aspect. I wouldn't say burden, but the administrative aspect of being a contract holder on a GWAC. There are some things you just have to do as a government contract holder on a GWAC. And so therefore, we can become more efficient in our approach. And so that ultimately, we can respond to our customers in a meaningful way. All right, we can move on to the next slide, please. All right, so these are some of the kind of targeted things that we've looked at in terms of our approach with the 2 GWAC approach. Number 1 there. So currently we have SP3 and then SP3 Small Business. So what we've contemplated with SP4 is just having 1 contract, 1 GWAC. Right, instead of having SP3 Small Business and SP3 Unrestricted, we'll have SP4 and that's it. And within SP4, we'll have a small business track and a large business, or other than small business track, under 1 house. That seems like a small change, but it's not. And in fact, having the 2 GWAC approach actually doubles all our work in terms of our administration of the GWAC. And then also, with number 2, it prohibits small businesses from viewing opportunities that are placed on the unrestricted GWAC. So currently, if you're a small business on the SP3 Small Business GWAC, if a customer decides to post their requirement under the unrestricted GWAC, you will not see it. You won't even know about it. And that's kind of a shortcoming for the current construct of the GWAC. So we're trying to we're trying to eliminate that issue. Also, when a small business is successful under the NAICS code 541-512, when a small business is successful under that NAICS code and now they've graduated from a small to other than small, in the current construct of what we have with SP3 and SP3 Small Business, you cannot graduate to the unrestricted contract. You stay on the small business GWAC. So imagine that, being a large business on a small business GWAC. So you can kind of just imagine what kind of opportunities you'll see, because most of the opportunities that go on the small business GWAC are set aside for small businesses. So we've eliminated that. So once you become large under SP4, you can compete with the large companies or large businesses, and you'll be hopefully be successful in that arena. Next slide, please. So these are some of the anticipated changes for SP4. Now let me be crystal clear here. Everything that I'm mentioning in terms of SP4 today is unofficial information. So when the solicitation comes out and you don't see some of this stuff that I'm mentioning today, then the agency simply changed its mind. We pivoted in terms of our direction. Don't be upset. Don't be mad at me and sending me nasty grams. But this is all unofficial information. This information regarding SP4 will be official when you see it in the solicitation, in the actual solicitation. But this is just what we are contemplating, anticipated changes. All right, so the ceiling will increase likely to 40 billion. Why? Because NITAAC's footprint is getting larger and larger in the federal government. Most folks, when I first came to NITAAC some years ago, most agencies hadn't heard about us. In fact, a lot of agencies within NIH hadn't heard about us. So that's changed now. We've become more popular. So therefore, more business, right? More orders. So therefore, the ceiling would need to increase. Number two, instead of having a 10-year ordering period, just 10-year base, I should say, we split the ordering period or the base into a 5-year base and a 5-year option. The reason why we've done that is because particularly for small businesses, there's a recertification period that occurs at the 5-year point as required. And then also we can address any contract GWAC performance issues with that option. And of course, with options, the agency can exercise an option at their discretion. So it's not considered, if we need to get rid of some folks, let's just be frank here. If we need to get rid of some dead weight that's on the GWAC, folks are not performing, we can just not exercise their option. And it's not viewed as a contract termination. It's easier just to not exercise an option. With CIO SP4, we're taking a phased approach in terms of the evaluation criteria. That's number 3. We're asking vendors to complete a self-scoring sheet. We'll talk a little bit about that later on. Corporate experience is going to be very, very important with this particular evaluation. We want to know what you've done, right? And how successful you were when you were doing what you've done. And then we want you to demonstrate that via your documentation that you submit with regard to your proposal. So that's what we're looking for in terms of the evaluation. Now, number 5, the structure of the contract will not change, the overall structure. And if you're familiar with SP3, you'll know that there are 10 task areas that make up the contract. And each of those task areas identify a particular IT area that we want you to be well-versed in. Most particular task area 1, we'll talk about that in a few, but it's broken out into 10 task areas. And with the proposal, obviously we want you to respond to each of those task areas. And with SP4, some of those task areas may have changed a little bit. Just to, SP3 was awarded in 2012, so IT has changed. So SP4 will reflect the changes in the IT arena. All right, number 6 are the socioeconomic set-aside categories. Women-owned, I seen a question just now. Women-owned, will women-owned be a part of that? Yes, that was left off for some reason, I'm not sure why. Women-owned will be a part of that, a part of the categories. All right, move on to the next slide. All right, so we have a range, obviously, of how many awards we want to make, right? This is not open-ended, right? So we've shared a little bit of that in the draft solicitation, but obviously that number has changed. Just know this, I'm not giving out any particulars. I don't think I am today, but the number of awards on SP4 will be greater than what we have right now in terms of SP3. All right, so we're looking to make more awards in each category. All right, so number 8 here. I'm just reading through here, just kind of paraphrasing. So with the current contract with SP3, if you are a small business HUBZone, right? Say you're a HUBZone company and you got an award on SP3, then if you qualified, you will likely have two contracts under SP3 Small Business. You will have a HUBZone contract and you will have a small business contract. All right, so when a requirement is released by a customer, and say it's a HUBZone set aside, only those companies or contract holders under SP3 that have a HUBZone contract will be able to compete for that requirement. Only those who have a HUBZone contract, not all small businesses. So for example, if a customer submits a requirement for competition and it's a small business set aside under the current GWAC, if you have a HUBZone contract and you don't have a small business contract, then you won't see that requirement. So we have these silos currently. You have to have that kind of a contract to compete for that requirement. If it's a small business set aside, you have to have a small business contract. If it's a HUBZone set aside, you have to have a HUBZone contract. The reason for that is because we had different evaluation criteria for each of the socioeconomic set asides. All right, so SP4, we are not following that methodology. If you get a HUBZone award, you'll be a small business HUBZone. We're simplifying this. In other words, we're making this a lot easier than what it is right now. So I hope that makes sense to everyone. Let me know if you have any questions. All right. Now number 9 talks about the ramp. We don't anticipate ramping on any contract holders during the life of SP4, like we did with the current contract. We don't anticipate that. Now, if there's a situation where we have a number of HUBZones that have been, for example, we have a number of HUBZones in the SP4 contract, and they've been wildly successful to the point that they're no longer small businesses. Well, obviously, we have to replenish those HUBZone numbers to make the contract competitive, right? So we would have to have a ramp on. But we don't anticipate, because of the numbers we are awarding up front, we don't anticipate having a situation where we need to replenish any of the socioeconomic categories. So, but that's just a thought, right? That's just we're contemplating that approach. With this, number 10, with this particular contract, we're going to have more robust off-ramping language. So if a contract holder isn't being as responsive or diligent, in terms of their performance under the GWAC, then obviously we're going to be looking for ways to get you off of the GWAC. We don't want any dead weight, as it were, on the GWAC. We want folks who want to be there, who want to participate, who want to contribute to the success of the NITAAC and also to their own success. We're not looking for folks who want to just get on the GWAC just so they can novate off to make some money. We're not looking for that, and we're adamant about that part. All right, so right now we have a ordering system that our customers use in order to compete their requirements. We have the same ordering system is used by contract holders to post or upload their proposals. Obviously, we're going to use that same ordering system, but we may tweak it to make it a little bit more easier, make it a little better, more efficient for our customers and contract holders. All right, and then the NCAF, that's the fee. That's don't worry about that. We can move to the next slide. All right, so this is kind of the evaluation approach that we are contemplating. We have 3 phases. Phase 1, bidders. So I don't like that word, but offerors will submit their self-scoring sheet that reflects what they view themselves as based upon the evaluation criteria. And then phase 2 is just that, go, no go, just some required documentation that you need to submit with your proposal. You'll be surprised how many contractors don't read and don't submit and then are upset that they didn't submit what they're supposed to submit. That's a very important phase, phase 2. And then phase 3 will be more of a traditional approach in terms of the evaluation of what you've submitted in relation to the 10 task areas that I spoke of, and also your pricing for your for the labor categories. We can move to the next slide. All right, that's the self-scoring sheet. That was a long time ago. Don't worry about it. That's old. It's changed since then. So if you feel the need to look at it, take a look at it. Just look at it for information purposes. But what you see as of September 25th has changed dramatically. But at least I guess you'll get an idea of what it looks like. So just go to Beta Sam and search for NITAAC, and you'll see what I'm talking about or what I'm speaking of. You go to the next slide, please. And just as an FYI, this slide presentation will not be made available to those who are in attendance today. All right. So here's the competition criteria. Just search, I'm sorry, I'm just looking at a question on the fly here. Just search the Beta Sam website and look for NITAAC. And you should be able to see what we posted. Let me know if you can. All right, so competition. So as I mentioned, we combined these two GWACs. And so we have large, we have other than small, and then small. Obviously, smalls and other than larges will not be competing with each other. That's obviously, so, but we have to make sure that everyone is aware of that. So in terms of the self-score all the way down to the phase 3 part of the evaluation, you will be competing with and against the evaluation criteria and similarly situated companies. You will never be competing with a large business if you're a small. All right, you're not competing for space with a large. That's silly. All right, so that kind of covers both of those top points there. All right, so each socioeconomic category company is only competing against a company within that category. That's bullet number 3. So with the socioeconomic categories, obviously under the GWAC, we're gonna use different criteria for each category. So for example, a small business company may have a higher bar than, let's just say, a small business HUBZone, or a small business service disabled, or a small business woman owned. If you're just a small business, your bar is going to be a lot higher. Why? Because we're trying to target those categories of woman owned, service disabled, veteran owned, and then also HUBZones. All right, so that's what that bullet means. The small business only, if you're just a small business, your bar will be a little bit higher. And the same applies for other than small. Your bar will be at the very highest for large businesses, because we expect for large businesses to perform at that level. All right. And the last bullet kind of speaks to that. The criteria is different for each business size, small versus large. All right, so we can move on to the next slide. This is just page limits that may or may not change. So don't hold your breath and don't quote me on this. So that may or may not change. It just depends on the agency's prerogative and discretion. Move to the next slide, please. Task area 1 is the most important part of your proposal. It always has been with NITAAC. Task area 1, that's the health IT one. All right, these are just some thoughts of what we'll be looking for in terms of health IT, management plan. This is all standard. All right, this is nothing new for the government. But what is a management plan? What is the government looking for? Well, it's right there. How do you manage a contract of this size and scope? Business arrangements, contracting, teaming arrangement. If you have a team, then we expect for you to have a documentation to substantiate the team, the arrangement. If you don't, then that's a no-go issue, right? So you need to submit the teaming arrangement documentation with your proposal. And then of course you have to decide who's going to be on your team and who's going to be the team lead, right? And that should all be substantiated in that document, teaming arrangement document. Let's move to the next slide. All right. We are obviously a health IT organization. So of course, that is the most important thing that we're looking for. That's who we are. That separates us from any other GWAC organization, because we are the NIH, and obviously that trickles down to everything we do, including setting up or establishing GWACs. Like with most requirements of this size, price is important, but the technical approach is paramount, and so is health IT. So just keep that in mind. We obviously will not be on a LPTA, lowest price technical approach, but obviously we will be looking at a best value theorem or continuum of best value. All right, and that's how we will apply. We will likely apply the evaluation criteria. Remember, this is all unofficial; it can change, but just be thinking about that as you are contemplating submitting a proposal for this requirement. We can move to the next slide, please. Scoring. This may change. This is the phase 1 self-score. Apparently, this is the max, maybe, but that's probably going to change. So there you go. We can move to the next slide. All right, this is a timeline that is no good. So draft RFP did go out March 27th, and then some comments we resubmitted some comments back to the industry. The RFP says on or about March 15th. I guess that's okay to say, because we're right at March 15th. So maybe it'll just know this: the RFP will be posted soon, within the next few weeks, likely. We still have some hurdles we have to cross in terms of approvals throughout the agency and department, but we don't anticipate any issues. So just know that the RFP will be released soon. We're looking at a 30 to 45 day period where it will be out on the street and posted. So just kind of gauge your affairs around that. It may be extended, because that's usually what happens with these types of requirements. There's usually an extension. Excuse me. Government technical review. It will happen after you submit your proposal. Those dates mean nothing. Formal source selection period and process with the SSA, that means absolutely nothing. It will happen. It has to happen in order for the award to happen, right? And then award notices, just know that the awards will be made before the end of the current contract. All right, so pay no attention to these dates. This is just the process. Performance will likely start when the performance for the current contract ends, and that's in May-ish of 2022. When SP3 sunsets, the ordering period sunsets. So we plan to have SP4 in place by May of next year. All right, and if not, then we'll just be doing an extension, just like every other government agency. All right, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so opportunities for small businesses. I think that's why you're all here. So, as I mentioned, EGOS, the way we set up and structured SP3, and then the software or the ordering software around it, it really prohibited small businesses from seeing everything, right? You don't see the multi-million-dollar requirements that go to large or to the other than small GWAC or unrestricted GWAC. You have no way of seeing that. And you typically, other than small firms, are not necessarily looking to team with anybody. They may have a subcontracting plan, but usually those are all spelled out before you even come into the picture. So you have no opportunity. There's really no opportunity there. So we're trying to change all that with the SP4 concept, right? In that everyone, particularly small businesses, can see everything. Now, of course, this approach that we're contemplating with SP4 has not made industry very happy, particularly other than small businesses. They love what we have right now for obvious reasons. They don't have to deal with small business proposals and small businesses as real as competition, but we've seen an opportunity there to kind of extend to small businesses. And also, with this proposed or contemplated approach, we give small businesses the incentive of success, right? Right now, what we have under SP3 is that if you're successful, then when you get to a certain point, it's almost like you're penalized, right? On other GWACs where you know a small business is very, very successful, then you hit the 5-year point, you have to recertify to other than small because of your success. On other GWACs, your contract is terminated. So they penalize you for being successful. Well, we obviously are not terminating any contracts, not under the current GWAC, and we certainly wouldn't do that under SP4, not to our high performers. But what we have now under SP3 is if you recertify to other than small because of your success, then you can't capitalize on that success. You're not small anymore, and you're on a small business GWAC. And I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. So we're trying to avoid that. We want to make sure that if you're successful, that you can continue to be successful within the, you know, the range of the FAR and the regulation. So that's what we've tried to you know, create here at NITAAC, and we hope that makes sense to industry, particularly to small businesses, and really to the SBA. Native American, Alaska Native owned firms. So we're trying to target that category as a socioeconomic category under the GWAC as well. They have a different name now. It's not ANC anymore. It's something else. I forget. It escapes me right now. But that's just the ongoing thing that we're trying to establish under the GWAC in terms of our socioeconomic categories, because we understand that there's opportunity there. All right, so we can move to the next slide. All right, so teaming arrangement. This is a big question under the small business GWAC. So one, with regards to teaming arrangements, obviously NITAAC will follow the CFR and whatever regulations there are out there in terms of the FAR and the CFR that govern how we evaluate and approach JVs and CTAs. So it's just a random question here. Can a small business be on multiple teams as a JV or CTA? Yes. Or as a subcontractor? Yes. However, you cannot be the prime on multiple teams. Does that make sense? You cannot submit multiple proposals to NITAAC as a prime contractor. You cannot do that. We will delete and eliminate all of your proposals if you do that. So let's just be clear here. All right, I want to make sure everybody's clear. We will not accept multiple prime offers. Past performance. Is there a requirement for a prime contractor to demonstrate one past performance in health IT? I don't know the answer to that. You'll see the answer to that in the solicitation. All right, that's a question we get a lot, and I'm just putting it out there that we're not going to answer that. We're not going to tell you how to answer or how to respond to the evaluation. If you're a prime contractor and you have past performance, then submit it if it aligns to the scope of the GWAC. Socioeconomic categories. Can a small business compete with multiple socioeconomic categories, or do they have to choose one? Now think about what I said earlier. All right, to get on to the GWAC, the bar for small is higher than it would be for any other business or any other category, I should say. So if you're a HUBZone, right? Now think about that. Hold on. The bar is higher for small business, and we're not going to have multiple contracts for each set aside category. We're not doing that. So just if the bar is high for small and you're a HUBZone, you submit your proposal as a HUBZone, right? And then once you're on a GWAC, we'll consider you a small business HUBZone. You see how that works? So just, you know, make it easier on yourselves. All right, experience. Can we include team members' experience as part of the 30 example? I don't know what that means. I'm not sure where this came from on this slide. I'm sorry, y'all. Security requirements. We're not requiring any type of secret or top secret or anything like that. If you have it, obviously it makes you more marketable under the GWAC, but we're not requiring that of small businesses in any way, shape, or form. All right, we can move to the next slide. Wow, is that it? I thought it was more. Okay, are there any questions? How long have I been talking? Oh, I'm rolling. I'm right at 40 minutes. Okay, are there any questions for me? I'm going to go into the chat real quick to see. I'm just going to answer these questions unless you guys want to read them to me or something like that, but I can read, so I'm just go ahead and answer.
However you want to handle that.
Yeah, I can handle it. It says, okay. I'm sorry, I'm just going through some of the preliminary stuff. Okay, no, the slides will not be made available. Hope that answers your question. Does CIOCS include software licensing purchasing as well? It absolutely does. In fact, there is some talk of making CIOCS a only source for many of the department level licensing software, particularly Microsoft. So if you're familiar with CS, pay attention to it, because there may be a significant bump in requirements that come across that GWAC. And as I mentioned, once SP4 is awarded, CS will be in a recompete status. Will the set aside include women-owned? Yes. What if you are both women-owned and 8A? So as I mentioned, the small business bar is high. 8As will be not as high, but it's up there. And then women-owned, the bar will be a little bit lower. So with 8As, it's impossible to include. The only way we can award to an 8A is with a separate contract. So there will be a siloed situation likely with 8As because of the regulations. And, you know, an 8A contract is a contract with the SBA, and, you know, it's just the whole thing. So 8As will be a separate thing in terms of how we award the contracts. There's still a set aside category under SP4, but it'll be a standalone contract for those awardees for 8As. And then women-owned is kind of lumped into the small business, HUBZone, service disabled, into those categories. So if you were to get an award as a woman-owned small business, then obviously under the GWAC, you'll be considered a woman-owned and a small business on the GWAC. So you'll see all those opportunities. Next question. When we compete as a small business, can we have an OTSB subcontractor? Yeah. You know, we have the limitations on subcontracting rule that you have to apply and abide by. And there's a lot to that question. But yes, high level. If you want to use the other than smalls qualifications, then no. You can do whatever you want, but we won't consider their qualifications in your proposal. That makes sense. We likely won't. Would you please place that link? Just look it up and let me know. Would women-owned small businesses only compete with other? Yes, because the criteria will be specific to women-owned businesses. And I think we're looking for a certain number of women-owned small businesses as we establish the GWAC. Now, once the GWAC is established, you'll kind of be in the big box, so big in the bucket with everyone else in the small business arena. If we are a woman-owned small business and have a HUBZone teaming partner, how will we be evaluated? I'm not sure how you can have a teaming partner and not a CTA. That I don't know. That one escapes me. I'm not sure what you mean by that. The two CTA have to have, I guess that means does two CTAs have to have past performance before bidding? Yes, you always have to have past performance before bidding. Does the CTA have to have past performance? Oh, okay, that's the cleaned up version. Does CTA have to have past performance before bidding? Yes. You have to submit past performance. Do you have to have past performance as a CTA? I don't believe so. You have to take a look at the CFR on that one. Does CIOSP or CIOCS include cloud? Yes, it does. to answer that question. I'm just going through the chat. I believe everybody can see what's in this chat. You can just kind of follow me as I go down. Is the portal that will be used for submitting the proposal response be similar to the OS? Yes, it will be similar in that we will, it will help us in our evaluating. It won't be the same, but it will be similar to that. Is there reverse teaming? I don't know what reverse teaming is. I'm not familiar with that. How will newly formed JVs be evaluated? They will be evaluated just like any other firm. Whether they're newly formed or not doesn't have a bearing on how we will evaluate. Will there be a requirement for a JV to have no? That's I believe that's against the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations. I believe. Is there or are there any advantage for multiple, I guess that's small disadvantaged business, on the team for an agency to receive multiple credits? I'm not a credit person. I'm not sure. You have to ask the SBA about that one. HUBZone could be a teaming partner to a woman-owned teaming sub. Would the team be competing in woman-owned only or be considered a HUBZone? Well, we don't use the status of the sub as the status of the prime. So whatever the prime is what we will consider in terms of the status of the prime and of the contract holder. And obviously that will be substantiated in SAM, your SAM record. I hope that makes sense to everybody. I think that's the last question, if I'm reading this correctly. So I believe it is. So thank you, everyone. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my goodness, we got more. Yeah, listen, y'all let me know when you want me to stop, but I'll keep going.
Yes. You did an excellent job.
Thank you.
As always.
Does that mean stop or keep going?
No, I don't know time. That's up to Tommy.
We'll take Keith. We'll take a couple more, but you.
Okay, a couple more. So I'll do three more. I'll do three more. Top three. So okay, do you envision a self-scoring sheet of working to maintain? I don't know. I don't know. That's a DoD thing, and they're still trying to figure that out. I have no idea.
So I guess the answer to HHS NITAAC has not gotten into the CMMC deal yet. Obviously, we know that DoD is actually first up. DHS is doing some stuff. They put it in one of theirs, and so is GSA. But somewhere down the road in the future, we figure most federal agencies will probably move to that. But
yes, so yeah, I understand. So we would love to be more a part of that, but it's still evolving right now, and we have a GWAC to award. So I'm not sure. Maybe in the future we can you know, get some of our contract holders to once the GWAC is established, maybe, and use that as, you know, get them on board with CMMC, right, to use it as like a marketing kind of a thing. But right now it's just difficult to make it a requirement because of we really don't know where it's going. So I think right now it's more of a I think you can get points for it, but it's just like almost like extra credit kind of a thing. Right. Okay. It won't make or break you if you don't have it, or if you do have it. Can a sub be can you be a subcontractor and a prime? You can be a prime once. You can be a sub as many times as you feel. And that's the last question. So can you be a sub? Yes. Can you be a prime? Yes, but you can only be a prime once. And that's all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for the questions. Those good questions. I hope everyone got something from this presentation today. Unfortunately, I'm not sharing it with everyone because I'm just not. Remember, the SP4 GWAC or SP4 solicitation will be released very soon, in a few weeks, likely. So stay tuned for that. There was a piece about HBCUs that was mentioned in the self-scoring sheet, if you're familiar with it. And that was it was based upon an executive order that was signed by the previous administration. And then, so what we were looking to do initially was to award contracts directly to HBCUs, but the regulations just don't allow for that yet. So we were trying to find a way to include HBCUs because they do a lot of work on a small business, on a subcontracting basis for a lot of firms in the federal atmosphere and federal arena. So what we're contemplating is offering points to those firms that have established relationships with HBCUs, historic Black colleges and universities, in line with the executive order that's mentioned in the draft solicitation. Now, we have a new administration, so I'm not sure if that's changed or if it's going to change in terms of the executive order or not. But right now, that's what NITAAC is looking for with regards to HBCUs. I hope that cleared some things for everyone. But again, thank you everybody for your questions. It's greatly, definitely a pleasure to be here to speak with this council. Thank you.
Hey, well, Keith, look, on behalf of my staff and all the folks that attended, definitely appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to share with us the information you have. And it gives the companies an opportunity to ask questions which they have and see what they want to do. But again, I appreciate you doing that for us, and I look forward to working with you in the future. And if you got a moment when we're all off, you can give me a call. I sent you my number in the chat. I just need to talk with you real quick. Okay, Miss Annette, thanks much. I know you got more work for me down the road. Okay, thanks everybody. A couple of just things as you go. Next week, we will have a proposal helper session. I think it's on the 18th. The flyers out. We're not in constant contact, and you can sign up for that. That one's on me. About a 2-hour session with proposal development, if you think you need that. But we'll see you next week. All righty.
Take care, everyone.